Okay, so about a week ago, my phone was stolen from where I work. It was charging on the countertop, and I was actually standing about 10 feet away. So today I'm here with my friend Ted. He's a local law enforcement officer, and we're going to be going over stuff regarding theft, how we can prevent our things from being taken from us, what to do if they do get taken from us, and what kind of expectations we might have as far as maybe getting our things back. Okay, so once again, I got my friend Ted here. He's a special guest we got today. So he's a local law enforcement officer that I work with, and we also do some classes together. It's awesome. And I just wanted to bring him in to kind of shed some light on this topic because he's dealt with a lot of this over the years. So if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, talk a little bit about your background, and then we'll dive right in.
Yeah, I'm Ted Valerio. I work for the Montrose County Sheriff's Office. Obviously, I'm here off duty to talk with Cam today. But I've been in investigations most of my career. I worked for the police department here, a combination between the two, about 21 years.
That's awesome. Yeah, so as you're obviously well aware, I think theft is just getting worse and worse everywhere. It's definitely getting worse here. For those of you who are tuning in who are not from here, this Montrose, Colorado is a pretty small town. It's kind of always been thought of as a nice, kind of small, sleepy, rural town, but honestly, things are getting a little sketchy here, to say the least. So we're seeing a lot of break-ins, a lot of thefts and all that stuff, so we figured this is a great opportunity of my phone being stolen, unfortunately, to go over this topic and hopefully at least provide a little bit of education that can help us. So just to recap, again, this happened about a week ago. I was working here in the shop and I had my phone charging on the counter, and I was actually trying to sell a product to a customer, and I was about 10 feet away. I had my back turned to it, and this sly little devil came up and nabbed it took it off the charging cord, and then actually ended up walking up to, I have to add this in because it's hilarious, she actually ended up walking to the front counter and spent about 2 minutes talking to our front desk clerks, asking them how to sell an identity like in the movies. So
Amazing.
Yeah, pretty crazy stuff. So what kind of happened after that, and we're going to kind of get into this a little bit more in the kind of second half of the video, but basically I was able to get screenshots of her on our video cameras. I figured out in about 15 to 20 minutes, I figured out that my phone had been stolen because we were closing up shop and I don't have my phone. I'm patting all my pockets, trying to figure out what happened, and then my coworker said, well, there was this weird person that came in asking about where the heck to get a phone in town. So then we put two and two together, we checked the video cameras, I got screenshots, and then actually the very first thing that I did was I sent those screenshots to a couple of my LEO buddies, including one of them that works at the local jail here, because I figured he probably knows her, which he did. And then I made a Facebook post as well on our local message board. Again, this is kind of a small town, so a lot of people know others here. And between my friend who worked in the jail and all these Facebook people all messaged me about the same time. I had about 10 people telling me this person's name. I called dispatch and didn't necessarily get the response that I was looking for, unfortunately. So I kind of had to essentially do my own investigating for at least a little bit there. To figure out who this person was and what her whole deal was. I even had her family members message me, so I kind of learned a lot about this person very quickly. And for those of you who are wondering, I did get my phone back. I was totally locked out of it, and I ended up unfortunately having to trade it in and upgrade it, so came out of pocket a little bit for that. I'm hoping to get some retribution for that.
Restitution.
Oh, sorry, restitution. Yeah.
Retribution. Freudian.
That would probably not be not retribution. I'd like to, but so restitution. I'm sorry. So, and that's probably going to be a little while, unfortunately. So, it could have turned out worse for sure. I lost a lot of my stuff, and as a lot of you guys know, it's a phone. It's not like it's the end of the world, but it's all your contacts.
It's your stuff.
It's your stuff. It's I have all my music on there, so it's been a giant headache. It's very frustrating. So without wasting too much more time, so let's talk first about what's probably the most important thing to keep us from losing our things is prevention. So
yeah, so just a little bit. Our little town that we live in here, it's growing here pretty quick, and over the past 20 years, it's quite changed. Things have changed as far as what you can do. Should you lock your doors? Should you lock your car doors? Honestly, I suggest you should do that anyways, anywhere. But it's becoming more and more important. One of the major things that we've seen actually over the last 20 years is we get sometimes our people are drug users or just kids looking for money or whatever else. They do what they call car shopping. This is actually what in their little area of influence, they call it car shopping, and they'll either do it at night or during the day, and they will just walk up and down the streets checking doors. So they're not smashing car windows, they're not doing any of that, but they're checking car doors, and lo and behold, they get quite a bit of stuff. They'll end up with guns, they'll end up with wallets, they'll end up with whatever they can find in there. And especially at night, they'll grab stuff, they'll go through it, and within a few seconds, they'll go to the next car down the block, and you will find pieces from other houses inside that car because they're like, oh, well, that's not as valuable as I thought. They toss it right there and keep going. So, and we've seen it as much as like 3 or 4 people, 2 on each side of the street, because this all comes from like ring cams and that, and they'll just hit vehicles and just keep moving, just kind of like locusts going down the road.
Yeah. So in that case, it sounds like they're usually looking for an easy target, right?
Yeah.
And so
lock the cars.
Lock the cars all the time. And this is one thing that I'm still having to work on myself. Is it's just a habit, right? And if you're not used to that habit, you find yourself not locking your car. Oh, well, I'm just going to go in the grocery store for a few minutes. And at least for me, I've had to just be almost kind of brutal with myself, and it just doesn't matter. I went today and picked up some lunch today, and I was literally inside this place for 45 seconds, and I still shut my truck off and locked it. I'm just not going to let myself take those chances, and it's just not worth it to me. So
that doesn't mean that we haven't had people actually smash windows.
Yeah.
They do that. So what kind of prevents that? Because they'll look in the window first, and if there's a purse there, if there's a gun, hopefully not, or if there's something other that they think is valuable, they may smash a window. Now, in our town, it's a little bit more rare, but it does happen. So if they see something valuable in plain sight, it's a good possibility they may break in to get it.
Hide your things. Yeah, and that's kind of one of those things that a lot of people maybe they just don't think about it, right? Like we pull up, again, I like the grocery store analogy. We pull up to the grocery store, and then your mind is kind of already on that next task. Okay, I need to grab my list, I need to go blah, 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 and you need to take just another couple seconds and just make sure that things are put away, tucked away, make sure you lock those doors, and it'll go a long way for you. So what else can we do as far as prevention for cars? What about houses?
Well, same thing with houses. We haven't had it lately, but we did have a string of burglaries several years back where people in the middle of the day, literally the middle of the day, were just going up to houses, going in there and burglarizing the houses. Well, these houses, most of them, their doors are unlocked. Front doors are unlocked, and so they just walked in, carried TVs out, carried all kinds of stuff out, whatever they could get out.
That's crazy. I think I heard, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, I think I heard a statistic that most home robberies occur through the front door. Is that correct? Do you know, or do you know much about that?
Burglaries? I don't know. So the difference between robbery and burglary, robbery is somebody would actually have to be there face to face, but yeah, when you're not there and they get into your place, that would be a burglary.
Okay. Yeah, so same deal. There's other things you can do for the kind of next level, right? You can get reinforced plates for your deadbolt. There's kind of some other cool things like that. Obviously, a lot of people are starting to get those little doorbell cameras. I think that's a great idea.
It's huge. Actually, we've gotten a lot of cases gets helped out with that, especially when we're going back and we're looking. What happened there, what exactly happened. Having that video is huge, especially the resolution of the newer video is making a big difference. This
security camera here, I mean, she was dumb enough to take my stuff in a pawn shop with cameras everywhere. But if it wasn't for that, there is just no way I would have ever got my stuff back. I was just able to get those clear images, tattoos, all that fun stuff, and I literally had about 20 people message me and tell me who that person was, because she's been going around and making kind of a lot of enemies, unfortunately, in this town, not making very good decisions. So.
And the big thing about your particular case is she just came right in, like she owned the place, and nobody thought anything of her being in here,
right?
And she just reached behind the counter and grabbed your phone, and still had the thought process to go up to the front and talk to people in front before she left. She didn't grab the phone, run out the door. No. She just was comfortable in doing it, and that actually happens quite a bit.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah, she does this stuff a lot, unfortunately, from what I understand. Again, kind of where I was able to kind of get all that intel from all these people, again, it did help. I was kind of losing hope. After a day and a half had gone by, I was like, man, there's almost no way I'm going to get this thing back. But I ended up talking to a couple of her family members who basically reassured me that she will hang on to the thing as long as she can, because she doesn't have a phone normally and she just wants to be able to use it to do her bidding, basically. So she did still have it on her, luckily, when the law enforcement officers here, when the police finally did contact her. Like I said, I was locked out of it, which is kind of frustrating, and that's kind of getting into some of the technology type stuff, which I think is also worth talking about. So as we're kind of segueing from preventing into what can you do if it happens, right? So a big part of it, mostly right now we're talking about phones, right, is tracking some of those services that they offer.
Yeah, so obviously Apple phones has Find My Friends type things, and making sure that you know how to get into that from another device and not just your device, and maybe another family member, usually the easiest way, but you can still log on to a desktop computer or laptop and access that. So being able to do that and know how that works is going to be pretty important, because if it's missing right away and you can get a hold of law enforcement and you can say, hey, yeah, I know exactly where they're at, I'm tracking them right now, they're headed this way. I got to tell you, law enforcement guys out there, those road dogs, man, they love that. They're ready to go chase something. If it's a cold theft, it's a little harder to work, lower priority, but if they have something to chase right now, they're all over it.
Yeah, that's important. That was another thing that I realized pretty quickly, was that I knew that kind of time was of the essence, and that was why I kind of jumped on it. I made that Facebook post. I started reaching out to buddies and tried to get as much information as quick as I can. I learned where this person hangs out. I figured out where she used to work in this local area. I went around talking to people. If you see this person, I showed them a picture. If you see this person, please call the police immediately. And you guys, you'd be surprised how far that goes. I had, the night that they actually nailed her, I had somebody message me on Facebook and said, I wish I saw this earlier, this post. We just had to kick her out of our house because of the way she was acting. Mm-hmm. And then I was able to call PD and get PD to get with that person to get a description of the clothing, and then I ended up falling asleep and getting a call from police at about 3:30 in the morning, and they had nailed her for, I think she was trying to steal something else, and she had my phone on her.
And it definitely helped the Montrose Police Department, since they were aware of it. They actually got her for doing something else, but they were aware that the phone was missing and she might have it, and so they took the steps to secure it and get it. So that was huge, and it really came down to, honestly, since a phone is somewhat of a low priority call compared to what they generally work on, but since they were aware of it, they were able to do something with it when she showed up.
And again, this kind of ties back into us being in a small town. They kind of call her, this type of person, a frequent flyer, right? Like they unfortunately make these poor decisions a lot. And so they kind of already knew where she hangs out, all that fun stuff. Mm-hmm. And that kind of really helped with that whole process. But like you said, if somebody stole your tools and you don't even report it for 2 months, and now you're saying, hey, I'm looking for my DeWalt screwdriver, that thing is gone, homie, I promise. So just be aware of that stuff, try and jump on it as quick as you can. The sad reality is a lot of this stuff is not very easy to recover, and a lot of these people who take these things, unfortunately, are smart enough to go to other areas to sell them. They'll go sell them in a pawn shop in a city an hour away, things like that, right?
And something that's kind of a newer technology that some people are using is like an Apple AirTag tracker or a Tile or something else like that. So basically what those are is a Bluetooth device that you can stick with like your tools or with your wallet,
that's pretty clever.
or with something else. And if that goes missing, it can actually track itself by hitting cell phones that are around it, which everybody has a cell phone, and so you can track those devices, which actually works out pretty well. So you'll see a lot of wallet sellers that are doing that, and but we've seen it. My son, he had a pistol and needed to fly back home. He lives in Washington State, and so my nephew recently did the same thing, and his pistol went missing. It was checked in and properly and all that, but it was missing for like a month and a half. So what we did is we taped an air tag inside the mag well and did the proper stuff, and it went, and he was able to track it his entire flight exactly where it was. So just in case. So it's unfortunately sometimes we are having to kind of take those next steps, and even in a smaller town, things still happen. So consider taking those next steps to take responsibility and before something else happens to you.
Yeah, I think, taking those, like you said, prevention is going to always be the most important things. Don't make it easy on them, at least make them work for it, right?
Yeah, sure.
And then, we're really trying to not get political in this video. I'll probably do another one where maybe I do get a little more political. But, this is also kind of the nature of the way our society is going. It seems like this stuff is happening more and more, and maybe we need to find ways to, as a community, work with our local law enforcement agencies, neighborhood watch programs, all that fun stuff to just try to find kind of the best ways to attack this problem, ideally from multiple angles, and at least keep it at bay, because it's just going to keep getting worse until we all do something about it. I don't know if I necessarily have the best answers, but it's definitely a societal issue. It's getting worse and worse. So hopefully that at least helps a little bit. Do you have anything else you want to add, or anything else you can think of?
There's so much to this, and a lot of things you can do, but the first step is just being aware, and the simple things. Lock your car doors, lock your house doors. You don't need to be paranoid, but you do need to be aware.
What about, really quick before we wrap up, what about stolen vehicles? So cars, ATVs, dirt bikes, what's the best way to combat that?
So a couple of good things. Number one is make sure that you have some good photos of the vehicle. So like if you have your own vehicles now, it'd be good to take photos from different angles of those and just kind of maintain those. Getting those photos out fairly quickly, because we'll put them on Crime Stoppers Facebook, and we'll get it out as quickly as possible. We have some other resources to watch for vehicles and stuff like that. Not leaving your keys in the vehicle. It happens. Leave it in the center console or something else. Well, our bad guys, they check those places. And sometimes they leave with vehicles that were unlocked with keys in the center console. And then people are wondering, why did they steal my vehicle? Well, because it was easy.
The center console seems to be a pretty obvious place to stick their paws in. Cool. Yeah, those are definitely big ones. I know those are huge problems. People are getting under cars and stealing catalytic converters. I know that's even happening here now, isn't it?
Well, that's been happening for years. It goes in waves, but as soon as the price of precious metals, because those catalytic converters have platinum in them, and so it probably, some vehicles it's up to $10,000 to replace that part, but they can get a couple $100 for that. So and it takes them a couple of minutes to cut it out with a cordless sawzall. And they just go under your vehicle, cut it out, and go take it in. It's getting a little harder with like Reclam Metal and some of the other places. They're being a little more proactive on who brings those things in.
That's good.
But nevertheless, if Reclam is not so easy, they may go to another town.
Right. So. Okay, cool. Well, hopefully you guys got something out of this. Like I said, I might do another video about the topic, kind of getting a little bit more into the politics, a little bit just talking about maybe potential societal fixes to some of this stuff or whatever. We'll see. But hopefully you guys got something out of this. I got a new phone, so I guess that's a good thing. And definitely stay safe, be vigilant out there, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks for being here, Ted.
Appreciate it.